On July 9th, I received a message that Imam Ayman Soliman had been detained at his ICE hearing. He was an Egyptian journalist who'd lived in the US since 2014 with asylum status, which had been revoked. In Cincinnati, he was a pediatric chaplain and served on the board of Clifton Mosque. He was held in the Butler County Jail, where he experienced isolation and unfair treatment. Throughout that time, he remained committed to improving the lives of his fellow inmates. It's no surprise that he continued to put the needs of others before his own. He organized Friday prayer and provided care to his fellow inmates. At the ICE facility on that July afternoon, the message had contained an invitation for faith leaders to have a press conference in front of the building. It was there where interfaith leaders began organizing with his support team. While he was being detained, colleagues advocated for their friend, even at great personal cost. Others organized interfaith prayer vigils. People wrote and signed letters, and collectively we placed pressure on our civic leaders. On September 19th, I received another message that Imam Ayman Soliman was free. His asylee status was restored, and when I saw footage of his release, I burst into tears. I began to sing the South African freedom song, "Come Walk With Us, The Journey Is Long." I sang it for like 2 days. But knowing that the journey is long is why we've invited him to speak on this MLK weekend. We welcome his wisdom about fighting injustice, since none of us is free until all of us are free. In the true interfaith spirit, Clifton United Methodist Church, Temple Shalom, and Calvary, and Mount Auburn now invite the community to hear the words of our neighbor and brother. Please help me welcome Imam Ayman Soliman.
Good evening and thanks for being here tonight. Before we start talking, let me ask you to take a moment of silence to honor the soul of Renee Nicole Good, who brutally lost her life while defending the right of people like myself to live peacefully and to not live in fear. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. I'd also like to thank my dear friends, brothers and sisters who made this event possible. And it's interesting to tell you that I never met any of these good people before I was detained. And what a beautiful thing to see 3 Christian denominations, 3 different churches, and a Jewish temple coming together to support and celebrate the release of a Muslim imam. This is America that we're all looking for.
Amen. Amen. Yes.
America
Yes.
where we all get together to make sure that everyone lives in dignity, is respected and honored. America that has a place for everyone, that opens its arms to everyone. And although the invitation was made by faith leaders and came from 4 different houses of worship, but we also welcome those who do not identify as religious or spiritual. You are all welcome, and this is a place for everyone. So, I moved from Egypt to the United States in 2014 due to real life threat because of my work as a journalist during the Arab Spring. But my story with persecution and abuse goes back before that. My mom used to tell me, you were born to cause trouble. And I think many of you will agree with that. So in 2000, I was advised, I lived in a small town, I was born and raised in a small town in Egypt. In 2000, I started getting more involved in politics. Egypt was ruled by people with military background since 1952. And I was born and raised knowing only one president who ruled for 31 years. So with the government corruption, the civil society had to do the heavy lifting on taking care of the vulnerable people and provide the service that the government did not provide. I was advised to run for the city council, small town council back in Egypt, which was a bad decision that I had to discover later. Because of that, I got detained just because I was active in the charity work at the time, working with some charitable organization that again caused me a lot of trouble here in the US, as we'll talk later. It's an organization that took care of the Egyptian children. Their main work was sponsoring the orphans. And at the time, they had like 300,000 orphans sponsored in over 1,100 chapters all over Egypt. I was volunteering with my small town chapter. Then I got detained for the first time by the secret police in Egypt for 3-4 days. Definitely no arrest warrant. It was a police state. And my crime was I was competing with the government and providing the service that the government should have been providing. 3-4 days of torture, and in order to convince me that it's going to be safe to live your life without intervening in our work. Something that we're hearing in some places in the United States nowadays. If you mind your business, if you do not intervene with whatever someone is doing, then you will be safe. I decided to mind my business, but again, the troublemaker inside me put me in another trouble in 2005. And this was because of my political activism, opposing the government. And I got detained again for 3-4 days and torture, and again decided to mind my business, and then went back in 2010 when Egypt started to see some movement pressuring the government to carry out some reforms, constitutional reforms, human rights, freedom of speech. And I got detained again for the third time in 2010, 3 months before the Egyptian peaceful people's uprising named as the Arab Spring. It was part of the Arab Spring, or the January 25th revolution. At the time, I was working as a tour guide. Then this was the event that introduced me to journalism. And I worked as a news producer for many international televisions. 1.5 years after this peaceful revolution, and after achieving a lot in the way of freedom and democracy, the army leaders did not like the democratic process, so they have to come back in a military coup, unfortunately backed by the US and the European Union, in a bloody military coup that took the life of over 30,000 people, having 120,000, at least 120,000 political detainees. None of them committed any crime. And working as a journalist was a big crime. Holding a camera was a reason for someone to get sniped by a sniper or getting killed in the street. We had a military coup in July of 2013. Since that day until March 6th, when I came to the US, every single protest I participated in, I saw blood in front of my eyes. People getting killed in front of my eyes. And they started targeting journalists. They broke into my house twice. Luckily, I was not there. And under the pressure of my family, I had to find some way to just take a break. 9 months of struggle, 9 months of escaping, changing my address, changing places where I should stay. It was terrifying. What is happening in Minnesota right now is, I would say, a tiny example of what was happening in Egypt at the time. People were fighting back for the democracy. They lived for 2 years under the freedom and democracy of the revolution, and they were fighting back to take it back. I found a film school in Chicago, and I moved here in March 2014, planning to finish my internship of 6 months and go back to celebrate the freedom of Egypt. And a few days after I came to the US, the security forces in Egypt, not knowing that I was in the US, although actually I left I left from the airport. I had a stamp in my passport, but all idiots actually work the same way. So they broke into my house a few days after I arrived here, but this time they vandalized the house and broke everything inside, lifting a message that we will find you wherever you go. Like this is ultimate, this is final. And for that reason, I had to apply for political asylum. This was the only way to stay legally in the US. My visa was a visitor's visa, which will expire in 6 months. So I sought legal counsel, and they advised me to apply for political asylum since I have a strong case and legit reasons to seek asylum. I had to wait for 3.5 years, and in July of 2017, I finally got a chance to have an interview. I was living in Chicago at the time, at the asylum office in Chicago. Long hours of discussion to verify every piece of information I provided. They found that I have legit reasons to seek asylum. There was a former previous persecution, and there is a legitimate fear of going back. I provided every document I had. They verified it, and then they granted me asylum 1 year later, so it took them 3.5 years to grant me asylum. I think it was enough time to go through and over every single document. Right after I was granted asylum in June of 2018, I started getting stopped at every airport in the US. Every time, I never left the country since I came here, but I used to travel domestically easily. After I got granted asylum, I started getting stopped at every single airport for every single flight, and this went over to like 21 flights. I started asking why. They said it's a random additional screening. For some reason, I did not really take it seriously, because if anybody lived in Chicago and traveled through O'Hare, you probably could wait for 2 hours before you get to your point, but actually it might take me 30 minutes before I get my boarding pass printed, but once it's done, they know that it's me. Somebody will come and take me for like a shortcut. So it usually saved a lot of time for me when I travel. So I didn't really pay too much attention. I met an attorney who was actually from Kashmiri background. She was born in the US, she was a US citizen, and when I told her, she said, come on, this is a Muslim thing. Sometimes Muslims get their names into some lists that they don't know why, and sometimes you get just removed from the list when you know why. Just enjoy the life. And I took her advice and enjoyed my life. In 2021, I started focusing on chaplaincy, interfaith chaplaincy, and I got a job offer to work at the Department of Corrections in Oregon, state of Oregon. After long interviews, I topped the list and I got the job. And after I accepted the offer, they sent me a letter rescinding the offer because they said, we ran a background check and unfortunately, you don't qualify. And this actually was shocking to me. I had, and I still have, a clean criminal record. The only crime I committed was a parking ticket in Chicago, and I'm sure if you live in Chicago, you know that everyone gets parking tickets. So I was advised to contact the Portland Police Department to see what was wrong. Unfortunately, their email did not explain exactly what was the problem, and I thought maybe there was some confusion. And I contacted the police department, and they were very professional. They looked at the case, asking me to send the 2 copies of my fingerprints because there might be some confusion. It seems like something happening all the time. And after a week, 10 days, they came back to me and said, "Congratulations, it was a mistake. Your fingerprints were confused with someone else." And I thought, okay, my problems with the random additional screening might be over. So I'm glad that this is all over. I got the job. 2 weeks in, they said we have to run another background check, which is a criminal justice information system. You cannot access the information of the criminal records of the inmates you're dealing with until you have another access. I said, wasn't that enough? He said, no, you have to do that. Then I took it, and unfortunately, they said, you did not pass it. You were not cleared. My director at the time got really mad at them and said, somebody is playing a game. He contacted the office of the governor of Portland and asked him to intervene. I was supposed to take care of the inmates in 14 different prisons. I was the only Muslim in the team. Of 28 chaplains, I was the only Muslim, and people were really struggling without having some resource that can guide them to how to provide good care to the inmates. They were really building lots of hopes that I will be this person, and unfortunately, 2 weeks, they said you can't even access any correctional facility. So I had to work from home, working on some research papers for the department, and they said, well, we're going to work on that. The vice governor tried to intervene, contacting all of the law enforcement agencies. Something wrong is happening. You guys flagged him before, but then you said it was a mistake, and now we're flagging him again. What is happening? Every agency said we don't have any idea. After 3-4 months, they have to fire me, and I accepted a job offer from Cincinnati Children, but they did not actually have any problem with that. So I was happy that I, got to have a job. It's also worth mentioning that before I applied for this job at the Department of Corrections, I worked for Northwestern University, which is one of the top 10 in the country, and there was no problem at all, and my clearance came in 24 hours. It seems like there was some problem, and I said, now it's time to actually deal with this problem. I have to find out why and who is trying to cause this much trouble to me. I sought legal counsel, contacted almost every organization in the country, and I got some assistance from a Muslim organization named the Muslim Legal Fund of America. They're mostly working on defending the civil rights of everyone, especially Muslims, when they are facing discrimination. And they looked at my case and said, this is a 101 case of discrimination, racial profiling, and they decided to file, to go to court. And they said the only way your name can be removed from these unknown lists is to file lawsuits in federal courts, and a federal judge with the authority has the authority to force the government to clear you. And I thought this was a good decision, but it seems like it was not. They filed 6 lawsuits against all the law enforcement agencies, and that was in 2022. I got my green card interview in 2023, which was supposed to be very normal. People get it after 6 months, 1 year, and I had to wait for 3 years to get my green card, 4 years to get my green card interview. It went okay. They said your green card will be there in 1 month. For those who do not know the green card, it's the permanent residency, the last step before being a citizen. When the media covered my story, and people said, oh, he was here since 2014, and he got his asylum approved in 2018. It's his mistake, it's his problem to wait from 2018 until he got detained in 2025 without being a citizen. They think that citizenship is just some, something you can apply for an Amazon or Kroger, and then you can become a citizen. Yeah, it takes time. I had to wait for 3.5, 4 years to get my asylum approved, and I have to wait another year to be eligible to apply for the green card. And since October of 2018 until today, I have not received my green card yet, even after I get released from the Butler County Jail. So it's a complicated process. Sometimes it's a good thing to be born in the US. So I got my green card interview. They said that after 1 month you will get your green card, and I thought things are working right now. And unfortunately, they did not send my green card for 8 months, and then they invited me for another interview, which is not common at all. Most people who apply for the green card do not actually have to have an interview at all, unless it is a green card through marriage, based on marriage. They have to verify that this is really marriage. Rather than that, most people don't have one interview, and now I'm being asked to go for the second one. My attorney said this actually seems suspicious, like they probably, some agency will try to get you involved in a conversation and ask you tricky questions, so you might make a mistake, have a slip, and give information that contradicts any other information that you gave before. This is a trap. That's what they said. And you can imagine how terrified I was. I went with an attorney, and that's exactly what they were doing. The same nice officer that met me for the first time was the same one, but she was less friendly this time, because there was another officer sitting in the room, introduced herself as law enforcement, that's all. And it seems like she was the one who dictating the questions on the USCIS officer. 3 full pages of questions, literally squeezed me. They wanted me to remember everything that happened to me since I graduated college, all my political views, religious views, my activities in Egypt, political activism, my life in the US, every single document that I provided to the United States. I was not ready for that, but my attorney thought I did well. A few months after that, waiting for my green card, I haven't heard from them, so we started contacting congressmen, senators to intervene. This is not okay. And in December of 2024, I got a letter from the USCIS, the same asylum office in Chicago that I applied for asylum ads. I got my interview ad. I was granted asylum. It is the same office that telling me that we are considering rescinding your asylum status, revoking your asylum status, because we obtained information that might impact your eligibility. And when you look at this information, many of my friends who understand law or went to law school can easily tell you that the person who wrote that had no idea what they were talking about. Literally, it's simply someone who wanted to tell me that we want you out of this country, and we don't even have to have a valid reason. I think if they used AI to help them write the letter, they would have done a better job, and I'm really serious. It was a terrible letter, trying to twist what I said, and basically they said, back to the charitable nonprofit that was the reason for me to get arrested in Egypt, because I was helping the orphans. Although I was asked in my tourist visa back in Egypt if I was a member of any organization, and I mentioned that I was a member of the Journalist Union in Egypt, Tourist Guides Union, and this organization, charitable organization. And when I applied for asylum, I wrote the same thing. And when I applied for my green card, I said the same thing. I thought they already know that. And this is the most reputable, respected charitable organization in Egypt. They work with every single government, and they do not work in politics. So they said this organization was, there were some members of this organization, they don't name them, worked or volunteered in one chapter that they didn't name. These people collaborated with members of the Muslim Brotherhood political party that did not name, which was a leading political party, ruling political party in Egypt at the time, in order to do what? Manufacture weapons? No. To provide medical aid to people in need in the suburbs of Egypt. This is a crime. Where am I in this conversation? I did not, I was providing medical aid, I was providing charitable work to people in need, but is that a crime? Like, do you guys have any information that I provided any illegal? They said this is called providing material support to a terrorist organization. No one, and it's literally what I explained right now. People that they didn't name volunteered in one of the chapters of 120 chapters of the organization that I belong to, definitely not my chapter, working with people who were working legally in Egypt. The ruling Egyptian party that had the president and the majority in the parliament at the time, to provide medical aid to people in the suburbs of Egypt. And I was supposed to, this is considered as material support to terrorism. Basically, someone was just trying to use their authority to terminate my asylum status so they can have, thank you, they can have a reason to deport me. Because they basically failed in federal courts when I filed lawsuits against them for discrimination. They gave me a month to prepare to respond to that. I went with my attorney to the office, asylum office in Chicago. We met an officer, and we responded to everything. I got them a final ruling from the highest administrative court in Egypt, telling the Egyptian government that this organization never was a part of the Muslim Brotherhood, who was actually not a terrorist organization in the US until 3 days ago. 3 days ago, Trump finally designated them, which is considered by the majority of political analysts as a political designation. So we provided every evidence, and we should be fine. They let me for 7 months, and in June of 2025, I got a letter telling me that you have to leave the country in 30 days because your asylum status got terminated. Sending me back to Egypt means death sentence, and no doubt about that. And they gave me the option to go to the immigration court in Cleveland to see if I'm eligible for any relief, so I can apply for asylum again. This was the process. And I accepted that. I got a legal team, and we started preparing for my hearing in the immigration court in Cleveland, so I'm following the process. I got a letter from ICE asking me for a meeting. When we called them and asked what it was about, it was terrifying because they were kidnapping people from the streets. They said, no, it's just a routine check-in. And we verified twice, and they said it is just a routine check-in. Bring your passports, bring your documents. And I went there for what was supposed to be a routine check-in that my colleagues talked about. I was blessed to have a group of clergy who knew I was there. I never met any of them. They just came to support a neighbor. And in the interview that was attended by an attorney, I found an FBI officer, and we were not notified that we were going to be talking to the FBI. It was supposed to be with an ICE officer, and what was supposed to be a routine check-in ended up being a 2.5 hours interview, similar to the one that I had at the USCIS office in Cincinnati. Get over everything in my life, and I answered every question with transparency. And at the end of the conversation, they basically did not accuse me of anything. They did not disagree with me or anything. They left the room for a few minutes and then came back telling me that you are under arrest. What for? The ICE officer said, I don't know. I don't know. What do you mean by don't know? He said, we just got a 24 hours ago, we got an order from above telling us anyone who comes to an ICE office should be detained. So simply, you're detained because you're following the rules, and you came to do it the right way. And again, most of the comments that came from the MAGA supporters, when any post made about me, especially the TV coverage, they always say, if you follow the process, if you follow the rules, you will stay legally. I did it right. I was legal from day one. I was documented from day one. I followed every rule, and I had 0 felonies in my criminal record, and I still got detained. I was moved to the Butler County Jail, spent 73 days. I'll get over the life at the Butler County Jail. I don't think my story is any different from anyone else. I even think I was privileged because there were so many voices speaking for me, and I'm sure there are thousands that do not have these voices. Based on what I have seen, based on my experience with these people firsthand, I don't think the government is telling us the truth when they say they only detain the criminals and the worst of the worst. They're not. And my experience, I lived in 3 different parts at the Butler County Jail that hosts around 450 ICE detainees. I moved between 3 different parts. Everybody had around 96 people. I dealt with at least half of them because half people go out and the other half will be caged in. I would say only 2 people that I met in jail told me that they had some criminal record, and only 3 people told me that they came here illegally. Everyone comes through the southern border. They made you guys think this southern border is just like a parking lot. People come in and out whenever they want. No. People come and apply for, meet an officer, wait for probably weeks and months, apply for asylum, fill an asylum form, meet an officer, and these people get a work permit, a social security card, they pay their taxes, they're just waiting for their turn to see a judge in an immigration court so they can decide whether they should stay here or not, whether they are eligible for asylum or not. And so they are legal. Most of them are legal. And according to the statistics of the DHS, 70% of the people that got detained had no criminal record. And the other 30% could have some misdemeanors. Could be just a parking ticket or a traffic violation that they did not pay. I spent 73 days from day one. They are there to tell you that you don't belong here, you are dehumanized, and we don't care for you. When you arrive there, they put us, 12, 14 of us, in a freezing room. When I say freezing room, it's like 30 degrees. And I know many televisions, many media outlets reached out to the Butler County Sheriff, and he always denied that, but I'm telling him, I'm repeating it again, it's not more than 30 degrees. People used the toilet papers, soaking it in water, and hit the fan, the air-conditioned fan, to clog it. This is the only way to avoid this cold air, and they will take our cloth and just leave a t-shirt. So you will be freezing. 12, 14 people were supposed to use an open toilet, so you're supposed to use toilet in front of 12, 14 people. And we were there for 13 hours. Of course, I did not accept that. I kept knocking on the door and hitting the door to asking them to allow me to use a human bathroom. And an officer was looking at me and mocking, and as if he's saying, this guy does not know where he is. He doesn't know, it doesn't seem like you understand where you're at. And after I kept bothering them, another officer was kind, who opened the door and allowed me to use the bathroom twice in the course of these 13 hours. But the first time was after 5 hours of knock on the door. After that, when the time came, after 13 hours in this freezing room, they took us to a room where we're supposed to change our outfit to be officially detainees and put on our jail uniform. They take every 3 together. The same officer that refused to allow me to use the bathroom was there, and he asked the 3 of us to strip naked. And of course, I had to object to that, and I asked why. I said, yeah, because we want to make sure that you're not hiding anything in your cloth. I said, totally fine. There is a screen wall in the back of this room. I can go, take the uniform. Uniform is just a shirt, a t-shirt, and pants. So there is nothing we can hide in that. And then I can show you my cloth that I took off. And he did not accept that. I started raising my voice, while the 2 other Mexicans, unfortunately, had to strip naked in front of the 2 of us. And he was mocking them, and he was mocking me. And when I kept raising my voice, and I told them, I need to talk to our supervisor, I will never do that. This is dehumanizing, and you don't have any right to do that. At the end, he allowed me to go back to behind the screen room, the screen wall, and change my cloth. And then he told me, listen, it does seem like you would be in a lot of trouble here. We don't like people like you. He means people who speak up and advocate for themselves. Everybody comes, I'm quoting him. Everybody comes and says, I was taken from my house and I left my little kids alone. We don't care. Everybody says, I haven't eaten anything for a day or 2. We don't care. Everybody says, I haven't slept for 1 or 2 days. We don't care. All we care about is you have to listen. We ended up leaving, going to our cells and our pods. Normal day at the Butler County Jail, which is a maximum security jail, so actually ICE detainees should not be there in the first place. This is a maximum security jail, which means They have 12 or 14 pods. If two people started an argument and raised their voice in one of the pods, the entire jail should be locked down, should go back to your cell. We already spend 19 hours, 15 minutes a day caged in these cells. A tiny little cell that size, having two people, rusty, bunk bed with a rusty table and a toilet. That's all you have. So you're supposed to spend 19 hours, 15 minutes every single day. You're out for 4 hours, 45 minutes, and that is the maximum. Most of the times, you'll go out, you leave your cage after 19 hours, and you start making phone calls with your family, with your attorney, and two people start an argument in another pod. So the entire facility should be locked down. That is the case with these maximum security jails. Food is disgusting. It does not. I don't think there is a nutritionist or expert looked into it. The sheriff, the Butler County sheriff, was joking and talking about the warden burger. I don't know if you guys saw that online. Some disgusting food. Everyone got sick after 1 week. Luckily, in order to promote their business, this disgusting food is not the only option. There is some commissary food where you get a terrible burger sandwich for $17. Not everyone can afford that. I was lucky enough that I was able to do that. I entered the jail weighing 145 pounds. I left 120, 125, so at least 20 pounds. I saw a psychiatrist for the first time of my life, and I was not able to sleep without medication. And I'm a person of faith. I believe in God. I believe that God can make miracles. I had great support outside. And I saw myself in television almost every 2-3 days. So people were screaming for me. And that actually should bring a lot of support. And imagine the life of someone who did not have these resources. One day I advocated for myself and my other Muslim detainees to have a quiet space to use for 10 minutes twice a day. We Muslims pray 5 times a day, but since we are caged for 19 hours, there is no chance to have the 5 prayers these 5 hours. So we only have 5 hours. Sometimes we have 1 prayer that comes during this break, and sometimes we have 2. So 10 minutes each. And there is already a room that is called multi-purpose room, used by a Christian volunteer chaplain who comes to lead the service. Some Muslim would come and lead the service, Jewish. So if you're using it for this service, we can use it for 10 minutes a day, once or twice. And some officers were kind to allow us, and some will not. And this particular officer that I was asking him very politely, may we use this room for 10 minutes? And he said no. He said, other officers allowed us. Can I understand why? What are the regulations? Can we use it or can we not use it? And he said, I don't know. I said, can you please ask someone who does know? Can you ask your supervisor? This happens a lot. We ask them lots of questions. Whenever they don't have an answer, they just pick up the phone and ask their supervisor. Can you ask your supervisor? He said, no. He said, can I talk to someone who can give me an answer? Because I would like to know. This is a religious right. And other people are allowing us, and you are the only one who are not allowing us. What is the problem? And he said, I don't have an answer to you. Then I thought, okay, I'll go talk to my attorney. I'll call my attorney on the phone and ask him to talk to someone who knows. And once he saw me running to the phone to pick up the phone, and this is all on camera, and I have a recording of that. We got the footage that shows exactly what happened. And when I went to talk to my attorney, he ran to talk to his supervisor and told him I objected a lockdown order, which means they locked the entire facility down and I was the only one objecting. And basically the camera shows that everybody was hanging out. 45 people around me were hanging out. And of course he lied, and he also told them I was very aggressive, and I told him, what faith are you following? Which goes against anything that any other officer would say about me. When he knew that I was talking to my attorney and he's in trouble, he lied about that, and he clicked the button, which was emergency button. And if you see the video, 5-6 officers, one of them has a gun, came to me, handcuffed me, and took me to one of these cold rooms again. And they said, you're going to be left for 24 hours in your cell. You'll go back to your cell later, but we're going to run an investigation. They sent a surgeon. This surgeon listened to my story, and I told him, after I talked to my attorney, I knew that this officer was in court. He had 2 lawsuits against him filed in 2020, and that is still in federal courts up till today for discrimination against Muslim inmates, one from Somalia and one from Cameroon. And he was aggressive that he broke the front teeth of one of them. And he's still in court. If you just do a Google, I cannot mention his name, but if you just Google Butler County officer in court, it will be the first name that will pop up. So my attorneys told me that he is already in trouble. And I think this is why he was terrified when I decided to call my attorney. And then I told the surgeon who was running the investigation, can you please go ask, I lived in 3 different pods. Can you go ask, that, like I dealt with like 8 officers in each pod. Can you go ask each and every officer that I dealt with, if any of them had ever had a situation that somebody complained that I was aggressive, I was unkind, I was disobedient, just find some single case and I'll be fine with whatever you decide. Just one single case. I always say thank you. I asked for permission, and I know it was heavy for many of them to see that support that I was getting from outside, and I know many will try to trigger me to make mistakes. So I was really wise, and I took care of everything I did in spite of the pressure and stress that I was living in. I dealt with my colleagues very politely. I supported Muslims and non-Muslims, and I had a lot of good relationships. Many of the officers were coming. One of them would come to my door at 10 p.m. after the lockdown and tell me, I just wanted to let you know that I and my family are praying for you. And I feel there is some difference in this pod because after you arrived here, like people are behaving better because I talked to them and I listened to them. I was definitely chaplaining them. I was practicing chaplaincy there. And so I told him, find one officer that can prove that I violated any law. We had lockdown orders the night before and the one before. Go look at the camera, look at the footage. See that I'm among the first people who run to the cell when there's some emergency. At the end, after listening to me and after told him, your colleague actually is a criminal and he is in court for 2 lawsuits against Muslims, that gives you more reasons to believe that it was not about that. And I never asked someone what your faith is unless we're having a conversation. He ended up deciding that I should be in solitary confinement for 20 days, which means my time out, I'll spend 23 hours inside my cell, and I'll only be allowed for 60 minutes a day from 12 midnight to 1 a.m. This is actually the case with all of the solitary confinement. No commissary food, so I have to eat the disgusting food jail and get sick. I didn't have access to my attorney. My attorney called me the second day I was in solitary, and they didn't allow me, the officer did not allow me to talk to my attorney. And imagine if I have a court coming up, and sometimes this is life-saving, and I was not allowed to receive my visitors on Sundays. I had some visitors visiting me, and they refused to let me see them. And after I kept sending grievance every single day. I would sleep. I go to bed at 2 p.m. 10 p.m. and asking my colleague, other cellmate, to wake me up at 12 or 1 a.m. 12:30, so I can just run to the phone to try to talk to someone. And when the media started talking about me in solitary, they started investigating, and they apologized. After 6 days, I lost my mind. My mental health started to deteriorate, and I felt like there is no way out of this place. The second day in solitary, I decided to go into a hunger strike. This was my only option. And my cellmate told one of the officers, and she was kind, and she came to me and just, without asking me to do or not to do, she just advised me to just think about it because this could have lots of consequences. And I heard that they do terrible stuff to those who decide to go into hunger strike. 6 days, an officer came and let me out, and the medical attention. I don't think this place is a safe place for someone to live. 2025 was the deadliest since ICE was founded. I mean, ICE detentions. 30 people died in detention. 30 people in 2025. In the first 9 days of 2026, 4 people died in ICE detention. First 9 days alone. So no medical attention. I remember a guy from Belize that I met in my third pod, and he was sick, getting medication. When I asked him what happened, he said, I got appendicitis, and it was about to explode. And when I went, I kept knocking on the door, I kept begging for help, and they finally got me ambulance. And the surgeon said, you were saved. If you were 15 minutes late, you could have died. They let him begging for 5-6 hours because of his pain. I myself deal with chronic migraines for 20 years. And I know it's mainly happening because of my low blood pressure, which is deadly as high blood pressure. I told them in advance that I get migraines, and if I get migraines, please, can you talk to my physician so he can give you the medication I'm taking, so I can take it when I need it. They ignored it. And one day, 5 p.m., we got locked in, and I started having migraines. At 7 p.m., I tried to sleep. I didn't go. I called them. They have some nurses that show up twice a day at 8 p.m. and at 6 a.m. so they can give medication to those who receive regular medications. Flu, whatever they have, diabetes. And I called the officer, told him I have migraines, and my migraines are usually happening because of low blood pressure, and it might actually lead to death. It's serious. Can I talk to someone? Like 1 hour, he did not come back to me. I called him again, and I said I contacted the clinic, but it seems like nobody is there. This was 7 p.m. at night. I called again, can you please call again? And he came to me at 10 p.m., holding my arm, my wrist, and saying, it seems like you're doing okay. Your blood pressure is okay. Yeah. And I kept begging for help. I had a Turkish cellmate at the time. He kept knocking on the door and clicking the button to have someone. The officer said, I can't really do anything. I called the clinic multiple times and nobody showed up. There is nothing I can do. I said, can you please call 911? Call an ambulance. I'm dying. This is a low blood pressure, and I feel I'm dying. And they let me laying on the floor until 4:35 a.m. I started migraine at 5 p.m. And then, why is that? They said, yeah, this is the time when the nurses should be coming, so she can check you. When she checked, she said, yeah, your blood pressure is low, but it's not that low. And all she gave me was 200 milligrams of ibuprofen. Yes, and this is documented. I sent a grievance on that. The cases with the other inmates, as I said before, everybody is living in this nightmare. I met people who were there for 7 months, who are ready to go home and leave this facility, and unfortunately they wouldn't let them go home. Like I don't know how it works. Some detainee came from Louisiana, and he said he saw someone there who was there for 18 months. 18 months in these terrible conditions. After I got into solitary, a nurse saw me and said, "You look so tired." I said, "Yes, because I can't sleep. The stress, anxiety, every day I'm thinking of when I'm going to be deported to Egypt and get killed. Plus, these jail conditions are terrible." She said, "Would you like to see a therapist?" I said, "I'd love that." And I saw someone from forensics. She was a social worker, very, very kind woman. She told me that she knew my story from the media. And she, after talking to her twice, she said, "You have to see a psychiatrist. I advise you to do that. We cannot force you to do that, but I advise you to do that. To see a psychiatrist, you have to wait for a month, because I only have one nurse practitioner, psychiatrist." And she said, "I can actually call her to make it an emergency, because I don't think you will survive this." She called her, and after 4 or 5 days, I saw the psychiatrist, and she gave me some medication, and I was not able to sleep without this medication. In spite of all the support I was receiving, in spite of all the attention, I was collapsing, and I imagined other people are even struggling more. When I get asked how I survived these 73 days, I always say 3 things. One, my faith. God was with me every step of the way, and I really never felt as close to God as I was during this experience. The second thing is this beautiful community that really showed me how caring, how accepting, and how loving this community is. I was very invested since I was children, so I did not really have that much time to connect with my community enough, especially the faith community. But it was a great, overwhelming surprise to see people of all faith and no faith coming together, protesting for me. I don't think they will ever let me out without this outcry. There are so many people who have very legitimate reasons to leave the jail, but they never let them out. The third thing, of course, is the beautiful support letters that I got. 760 letters coming to me in jail. The mailman was just mainly working for me every day. Every 2-3 days, I will bring 20, 30 letters. Many of them, I would say 20 letters of 760 were from people I met in person or I know, and the rest were from kind individuals that I never met. And I keep meeting some of them wherever I go for an event. I see people coming and say, hey, I wrote you a letter in jail and I said X and Y. That was very, very supportive, especially when people will not only say we're praying for you. I know prayer is important, but it's not everything. God works his miracles when we pray and then go out to the street to do something. How when we put our faith in action. I always said I lived my life building bridges with people who are different, whether they're different faith, different ethnicity. It is a principle in Islam. God explains in the Quran that one of the reasons he created us different is so we can get to know one another. So actually getting to know other people, getting to build the bridges, getting to understand and listen and talk and converse is one of the principles of the faith. I did not do enough to build these bridges while I was free, and God's miracle is these people all came together, so my detention was the reason that people of all faith and no faith came together and started building bridges. I wouldn't meet these three incredible individuals and many more without being detained. I always say God has a plan and we have to trust it. On Friday, September 19th, after 73 rough days in detention, while we were waiting for my final hearing at the immigration court, 6 days before my final hearing, which would decide whether I should be deported or not. On a Friday, an officer called me and said, come and pick up your stuff. It's a bad thing to say that unless you're from a country where you are just bored and you want to go home. Because you might move to another cell, to another pod, or maybe to another jail. And if you move to another jail, it's a bad sign because it might mean that you're getting deported. When I said pack up your stuff, it was a terrible moment. And then I asked why, and I was really scared. They said, because you're going home. The first home that came to my mind was Egypt. And you can imagine. And I told him, what do you mean you're going home? Which home? He said, Cincinnati. And this was the most beautiful moment of my entire life. I was in denial for a little bit. I told him, what do you mean you're going home? Like, what do you mean? We didn't go to court. No, it doesn't seem real. Like, this is a miracle. It's beyond a miracle. When I was praying to God, although I know God can make everything happen, I also was realistic when I was asking. Like, I would ask him to soften the heart of the judge so she can rule with justice, or strengthen the heart of the judge that she can resist the pressure of the government. I didn't have to tell you, the court hearings were just terrible. Like, the government did not have an argument. They changed the charges in the first hearing. They came to court, they don't know why they are bringing me here. They labeled me as a terrorist, and during the court hearings, they brought some other charges and said, oh, he killed the 2 people in Iraq, and I never been to Iraq. And when I asked the government attorney in court, yeah, this is all recorded. And many people actually were attending online, they saw that live. When I asked the government attorney, you guys accused me of killing 2 people in Iraq. I never been to Iraq. I said, oh, we're sorry, it was a mistake. We copy-pasted from someone else's file. These are public information. And actually many newspapers reported on that. Many people attended online. They were attending the court via Zoom, WebEx. And I asked her. She said it was a mistake, it was a copy-paste. They copy-pasted information of a terrorist and put it in my file in order to prevent me from having my right of getting released on bond, because we're calling for a bond release. I left the jail after 40 minutes. Usually when a judge rules that you have to leave the jail, you should be free, it takes 2 days. And now, because it's God's plan and it's people's work, I was released in 40 minutes. 12:20, they called me to pack my stuff. 1 p.m. I was out of jail in the happiest day of my life. Since I came out of jail, I got advised to remain silent and take care of myself. The same advice that I got in Egypt back home. But I believe that my mom was right. That trouble is always, if I didn't look for trouble, trouble actually looks for me. I really felt a moral obligation to speak up. I don't think my story is insignificant without the implication that it actually talks for many people. A lot of people have my story, and I know many of them, unfortunately, did not get the support I got, did not get the advocacy I got, so they got deported. I decided to just speak about my story so people might understand, and I know lots and lots and lots of arguments are made every time there's something posted. We have 2 televisions covering today, at least 2. So if they post something tomorrow, I advise you to go and look at the comments. Everyone says, oh, hey, he was here illegally, let's send him home. If he did it the right way, he should have not been to jail. No, I did it the right way. I was legal from day one. I was documented from day one. Another thing that I wanted to correct, some televisions reported mistakenly. They said my asylum was revoked under Biden, although I did not like President Biden, but this is not true. They started the process in December, and I got a chance to challenge that in February of 2025, and they let me till June when they terminated under Trump. So I think I'm done with my story, and if you guys have any questions.